What's happening, everybody? What's good? My name is Tui Scanlon, aka Too Easy, your friendly neighborhood Samoan at your service. Welcome to another Talk Story event. Tonight we have with us Matt LoPresti. What's good, man?
Aloha.
Aloha. This event is brought to you by Emerging Leaders for a Better Hawaii. Emerging Leaders for a Better Hawaii believes that Hawaii needs a new crop of elected leaders with compassion, vision, and courage. They're dedicated to supporting viable progressive leaders running for public office. So I'm glad you're here with us, man. Thank you so much for joining us. If you don't mind, if we could just, start the night with a little moment of silence for George Floyd and all the many victims of police brutality and injustice. Thank you. It's important to start this with Black Lives Matter, LGBTQIA plus lives matter, Indigenous lives matter. And in the fight for social justice, sometimes it feels lonely at times, So what could you tell us and the folks at home about the folks that are looking for advocacy and agency, looking for support? What does it mean to be an ally?
Thank you for that question. And thanks for beginning this way. It's very important. The main thing that I've learned and the positions that I've had in life and my background and how I grew up and the privilege that I've experienced throughout my life is to listen. You need to listen and learn. As a professor, I do a lot of talking, but a lot of that talking is not just from one person to another as feeding information, but rather a dialogue. And so my whole life has been one of training in dialogue. My scholarship that I write in is about interreligious dialogue. We talk about disagreements. Some of the greatest disagreements throughout history and even today are between major religious traditions themselves. And I've worked on finding ways for these traditions to come together, listen to one another, find common ground, and move forward. Some are in better positions than others to be able to help certain groups when you're talking about being an ally. And you need to listen. You need to see where their people's priorities are and where you're able to help. And sometimes that doesn't mean you acting, you trying to solve problems. It means sometimes hands off and empowering others. And that's the number one thing that I find fulfilling about this job as a state legislator when I was in office, is being able to empower others, being there, understanding how the tools of government work and how they can benefit the community, and then educating others so they know how to use those tools to help themselves.
Thank you. So you're a professor. Where do you teach and what do you teach?
I teach at Hawaii Pacific University. I've been there, 16 years now. I teach philosophy, I teach humanities, logic, critical thinking, ethics. I teach, right now I'm teaching a course on Confucian philosophy and Buddhist philosophy. I spent a lot of time in the South and East Asian philosophical traditions, and I focus on East-West comparative thought. That's what brought me to Hawaii. Over 20 years ago, I came here to earn the PhD at UH Manoa. It's one of the best schools in the world for comparative East-West philosophy. And I got the PhD and a job opened up at a local university. And I married a local girl, stuck around, put down roots.
Awesome. So, to your students that are at home and, there's been a vast restructuring of what education looks like and, how people attend classes. What do you tell those kids, or what do you say to those students, because they're not really kids, right? HBU, adults, technically, legally, right? What do you say to reassure them in these times? I mean, not only the COVID-19 era, but also, seeing the outpouring of support and, the unrest that's around. What do you say to reassure them? What do you say to give them peace of mind, or let them know that they're not alone?
Well, I have a really good rapport with my students, and they know, many of them, they know they can come to me for anything. They can ask me for their help with family matters, to help them with guidance, to help them obviously with education, but also personal matters, right? Moving to Hawaii for students is often a big transition in and of itself, because it's not just local kids that go there, it's international and mainland kids as well, or students. Um, the main thing for me has been, in my experience at least, is letting them know how to see these things in context. That we've been through challenges before as a country, as a nation, as a state, as a species, and we've made our way through them. And we have the tools, we have the capability, and they have the wherewithal and the power within themselves to endure. And again, just like in politics, where the real reward and I think the real leadership comes in empowering others. As an educator, it comes. That's the pattern that I see as well. At least that's the way that I approach both education and my advocacy work in legislature, is to build the confidence within the individual. Know that Help them know that they know how to use the tools that are available to them, and then set them free to go advocate on their own and get stuff done.
So why philosophy? Like, was there just, was it, what was the allure of it, the draw of it? What was the lightning bolt spark that drew you to philosophy, that continues your passion for your work?
That's a question I've been asked in a long time, but it's this answer is the same today as it was when I was a kid. And ever since I was a kid, I've been interested in philosophical thought. And what that means to me is probing beneath the surface, asking questions that people don't normally ask. We look back to historical figures like Socrates, one of the founders of Western philosophy, and he asked uncomfortable questions. He asked questions that made people really uncomfortable. He went up to judges and asked them, "What's justice?" He went up to artists and asked them, "What's beauty?" He went up to politicians and he asked them, what is a good law? And many of these people who were experts in society were unable to answer his questions. And that made them pretty frustrated, and they ended up killing him. That's the negative side of being in philosophy. You do anger people, right? Because you have a commitment to truth. You have a commitment to finding out objectively, if you can objectively, what a truth of the situation is. And that's always fascinated me. I was raised religious. I was raised in a Catholic family. I went to Sunday school and PSR on Wednesdays, and I asked a lot of questions, so much so that I got in trouble and they sent me to the priest. They thought I was being a smart aleck, but I was genuinely asking questions that I've written and published papers and I'm writing a book on now today. Like, how is it that different religious traditions can have different conceptions of God? What does that mean for a relationship with God? How do we orient our souls, if we have them, towards this life before us and towards each other, and what's the right way to respond to the challenges that we have? These are extraordinarily complicated questions, and for a lot of people, philosophy is, well, they don't know what to do with it, because you don't get closure usually from asking and trying to answer these kinds of questions. What you do get is a clearer picture of reality. You get a clearer picture of what's BS and what's actually likely to be true. And sometimes that's enough on big questions like, what's the meaning of life, and what should I do with my life, and who am I and why am I here? These are the kinds of questions that fascinate not just me as a kid and as an adult, but college students everywhere, right? So a lot of college students come to ask these questions of themselves when they're of college age, and they've never had a resource, a safe environment to ask and try to answer these questions. And so just as a profession, it's the best job in the world I could ever ask for, teaching philosophy, writing philosophy, reading. But I found a calling in politics because I saw that just asking, answering, and teaching these questions, well, that's fulfilling. The arc of change that you can make in the world is very long, and you might not see it in your lifetime. I can be pretty impatient and very passionate about things, like the injustices I see in my society, in my community. When my wife and we moved out to Ewa Beach over 10 years ago, and we saw how the schools were, the air conditioning was lacking, and we had kids in 100-degree heat. And I went around and I met my legislators, and I said, what can we do? How do we fix this? And it's not like it was a new problem, but they simply weren't addressing it. And I swore then and there that I was going to run. That's the main reason I ran, was to run to help improve the kids' lives on Eva Beach. And I went door to door and I said, hey, if this is my goal, I'm going to get the AC for the kids. I spent my life working on abstract ideas and problem solving, critical thinking. I think those skills might be useful in politics and helping to run government. And I'm going to get this done. And if I don't, then don't vote for me again. And we got it done. You know, it wasn't just me. It was being able to work with other legislators, understanding the system and navigating a very new culture, political culture, very different from academics. Academics are interested in truth. Politics is often just about appearance, and that's frustrating. But, you know, we have to make sacrifices from, I think, professional wants and needs for the community and the betterment of the community. And that's something that I've found to be a calling for me existentially, spiritually, professionally. And that's what's gotten me into politics.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you're a much better behaved Catholic student than I was, because I most definitely was just being snarky. I was definitely just trying to cause a problem. My older brother, actually, you know, music runs in my family. My older brother was in a band for a while, and I asked, you know, like, why punk rock? Like, what's going on with the punk rock scene, and what's the draw for you there? You know, like, it seems so melancholy, so down, you know, like, why am I alive and all that stuff, right? And, you know, he set his coffee down, and he looked at me and he was like, it's sometimes he's found in that art form that the asking of the question, right? The asking of those hard questions implies that not only there is an answer, but that the search continues, right? And that for those people who are super down and just looking for why am I here, right? That it implied that yet they're still searching, right? So there's still hope, and the search continues. You know?
And they're not alone in that search, right?
And they're not alone in that search, for sure. And they're reaching out to all those people that feel very similarly, right?
Yeah, and that communal bond isn't just say in the here and the now in music, but over centuries, right? In philosophy, you read people like Marcus Aurelius, former emperor of the Roman Empire, but philosopher and Stoic, and he was wrestling with some of these very profound ideas that everyday average people wrestle with today, right? And so these explorations of the human condition can be very fulfilling, very rewarding, especially if you're having, say, an existential crisis, like going through the maybe punk years.
So, you know, what questions do you feel need to be asked that have not been asked, or what questions have been asked but not with a loud enough voice surrounding social justice issues? Like, what conversations do you feel should we be having in these times, in the search for justice, in the search for equality? What conversations or what questions do you think we should be having or being asked?
That's an outstanding question, and I could ask, do you mean locally or nationally? But I think the national the local is a microcosm of the national problems that we see, and the main thing for me is economic justice, or I should say economic injustice. You know, the intersectionality of economic injustice strikes almost every demographic, besides the 1%. The questions that I have, and I ask my students to think about and write papers about and have discussions in class, is, you know, what does a just society look like? And most philosophers will tell you, this ain't it. While we may share very genuine, deep, sincere commitments to ideas of liberty and justice and these sorts of things, how we get there matters. And one of the ways that I think it's super important that we get there is through transparency, through involving community, by bringing even the most marginalized voices to the fore and making sure they have a seat at the pulpit to speak and be heard. And we don't have a society like that, and that sucks. And that's one of the things that motivates me. Locally, we see this, I think, in asking, why do we have still a plantation style economy. And there was a great article in Civil Beat this last week that I posted on my Facebook politician page. It's like, it should be required reading for people in politics or wanting to be in politics. And the author does a really great job at looking at the plantation economy basically raped the land to send money outside of the islands elsewhere and to enrich others. That's the model of colonialism, right? And in post-colonial societies, oftentimes that model is retained and it's just replaced with different people. We have a model today in our tourism industry where we are rewarding these multinational corporations, these Wall Street investment banks who come in, and our state actually backs and props up low wages, low benefits, if any, all to enrich these outside investors. And at the same time, bringing in 10 million people a year now, to whose benefit? Who benefits is a question we should always ask. And it ain't the people. It's not the working people. It's not the people who try to raise families and live here and want to have a place for their children, to not just be able to afford a home, but find a job in an economy that works for the state, and not to export our resources like some third world country. And that's what we've been doing. And we need to, and I think we've really seen a movement developing in Hawaii where people are standing up and asking, why is it like this? Why do we have a Democratic majority? Why does their Democratic Party have one of the most progressive platforms we've ever had, and yet we still don't have paid family leave? We still don't have sick leave. We still don't have, what, a 10-10 minimum wage? Give me a break. It's
brutal trying to, like, balance that budget, like on a 10-10, and the cost of living. Like, as a young man, that moved back from college and trying to find my way, like $10. I mean, even then it was less than that, but trying to make your way through that was just, there's no way to balance that budget for like my home checking account, not let alone the, grander economic situation of the state.
You look at the so-called middle class in our state. I'm a professor. My wife's a public school teacher. They're the least paid in the nation. We're barely middle class. We live paycheck to paycheck. If it wasn't for family, we couldn't live here, right? And so this ties into the teacher shortage. It ties into low wages for public employees. It ties into why is there so much development on the west side of Oahu and the traffic's so bad? That's because they're only letting these so-called affordable houses out here and forcing us to sit in this, waste our lives in traffic all day. They're all connected, all these issues, right? And so what we need is people who can see the big picture, who can understand the critical connections between them, and foresee 3 steps, 4 steps down the line. If we do this, how's that going to affect these other aspects? And then that's what I think I help bring to the table. So
I'm just come out and say it. Teachers are criminally underpaid. The amount of stuff that y'all are expected to do, that's,
well, they don't do
criminal.
It, but still, they should be able to afford a freaking decent living, right?
Indeed, man. My wife used to teach at Campbell when we lived in town, and that even going in the opposite direction of the main flow of traffic was still a brutal drive. You know what I mean? But that being said, I'm a little familiar just based on because my wife's work was out there for a little bit. But for the folks at home, tell us a little bit about your district, not just the places, but also the people that comprise your district.
Well, the people are great. They're what makes the beach awesome. We have, I mean, if you're talking demographically, we have a very diverse demographics population. We have a very large Filipino American community. My children are Filipino. Her parents lived here in Eva Beach on Fort Weaver Road back in the 60s, I think, when they still had the Quonset huts. So a large Filipino community. We have an interesting development because there's so much new homes out here. We've got kind of old Eva and new Eva Beach, right? I live in a townhome in the new area, right? And there's some real great community that comes together between these communities. Some people think that there's sometimes they don't get along. I've never seen evidence of that. I've always seen evidence of people being welcoming and open and caring. There's so many people that are great, go to the beach doing these cleanups all the time. Me and my kids do that sometimes. We've got a great faith-based community out here, a couple of large Catholic church congregations and others as well. They just built a new fellowship, I think it's a Baptist church over by the Safeway. We're growing, I think, the fastest growing community in the state. Correct me if I'm wrong, someone, but and with that comes a lot of challenges. And one of the biggest challenges has been the public schools. We let these developers build and build and build and build, and then we don't make them build any new roads, hardly. We don't make them build any new schools, hardly. And so James Campbell High School is the biggest school in the state by a long shot. We need a whole new second high school, and the plans are already in the works for that. And I was able to help work on that when I was in office. But the plan is it's going to be a mega high school. So it's already going to, when they build it, it's going to be one of the biggest high schools in the state. That's how far behind Eva and Waipahu and Kapolei are in infrastructure. They're building everything backwards, as you may say out here. They build the homes, then they build the roads. They build the homes, then they build the schools, right? And we need to stop that pattern of insanity. But nevertheless, we've seen these kids thrive. Eva Mackay Middle is one of the awesomest middle schools in the state. They have such an outstanding multimedia program that I've really been honored to go and see some of these kids' works. They're trying to get a theater program together last time I heard. And the sixth graders have all moved over to Eva Mackay now. You know, this is what we've had to do is take all the sixth graders from all the elementary schools because there's no room there, build a new wing for Eva Mackay. They got in there. But I could keep going on and on. I forgot what the question was.
The original question was tell us about your district.
I always go back to the schools for me, you know, because as an educator, I'm biased. My wife's an educator too, but the kids are the ones who are the most vulnerable. They don't have a voice. They can't vote. And their parents are stuck all day in traffic, and they're stuck in these hot classrooms. They're not hot anymore so much, but you know, that's always top of my mind for anything with public services, our schools and our kids in the schools and the teachers, and making sure they have what they need. That's the foundation of community for me. Like the school is the center of community for me.
Yeah. So you're running for office right now, and I will pose one of those big questions that you asked me earlier, or you referenced earlier. You're running for office, you're running for a leadership position. So what is a good leader? What are the traits of a good leader?
So I was touching on some of this earlier. The traits of a good leader is to listen and empower others, right? It's to follow your conscience and try to do the right thing with the information available to you. You know, we can see all these major problems that are out there, but at the end of the day, if you get elected, the job isn't to be a revolutionary. The job is to work with the people who are there, to work within the system that is there to make it work for your community, right? If you're there for any other reason, you shouldn't be there. And there's a lot of people in politics who aren't there, I think, for the right reasons. We need people who get in office, whether it's me or anybody else in this world. In a democracy, we need people who are motivated to run because they want to help their community. When I go to, they ask me to come to the schools a lot. I go to James Campbell High School a lot when I was in office and elementary schools and reading. And sometimes I meet a kid and say, I want to be governor. Now, you probably won't hear any of the politicians say this, but I say, that's terrible. Why would you want to do that? Set aside the sacrifice and the negative stuff that there is out there when you run for office, but What is your goal actually? And this happens with students in college too. They say, I want to get in office. Like, well, why? Like that gives me pause. Your first inclination, I think, should be, I want to help my community. How can I help my community? I want to start getting involved in beach cleanups. I'm going to start getting involved in painting over graffiti. You know, there's COVID-19 outbreak. I want to help get food and the food banks to people. These are the kind of motivations that motivate a good public servant, has the soul of service. When you engage in that, you begin to see how things work, or really sometimes in this state don't work. And then you can say, okay, here I see a problem. This is something maybe I can work on. And then it builds up and it builds up. And at some point it hits you and he's like, you know what? The way I'm going to make a difference is now I understand. Now I've given myself a service. I need to run for office. And even if you don't win, you make a difference because you bring issues that others haven't been addressing. Because that should be what motivates anybody to run. And I would step aside in a heartbeat, and I look forward to stepping aside someday, as I stepped aside before. I stepped down. If somebody else comes along and I think, you know what, they've got it. They've got the servant's heart, and they've got the community in mind first, and that's why they're doing this, I'll vote for them. Right now, I think I'm the best person for that. I think one of the things we need to do in this state is have term limits so that when people do get in, sometimes they can go in with the best intentions, but the system changes you. Mm-hmm. And we need to have a mechanism, a set mechanism to rotate people out. Not because they're bad people, but you need a break. Okay, time for some new blood, new ideas. Let's get some new people in there and see if they can help solve these problems that you've been working on and doing work on, hopefully, right? And you need this fresh blood in democracy. It can't just be a political class that runs the show, because then who are they serving? They're serving themselves. So sorry to get so serious.
No, go ahead, man. It's cool. It's what we're here for. We're here for all of it. You know what I mean? The lighthearted stuff, the heavy stuff. It's all relevant, man.
Sometimes
Let's go lighthearted. Let's go lighthearted then. All right. So complete, out of left field. What, in your opinion, is the perfect plate lunch, and from where?
Jeez. Okay. Lighthearted. Hard question.
Hard question, but I mean the real questions right now.
Perfect is different than what do I go for, right? What I go for usually is the zip pack at Zippy's. Right. We got to drive through Zippy's.
Respect.
That's it's been confusing to me having, even though I've been here 20 years, I think surf pack because I want the fish, but for some reason the surf pack doesn't have.
It's just not the same. It's just not the same.
So that's my go-to, and I get brown rice with it. But my favorite local restaurant is Shiro's. We got a great Shiro's down here on Papipi Road, and my go-to is the Shiro's Original. And maybe if my wife goes there with me in the morning for breakfast, I'll take a little bit of her pork adobo omelet. But
that's love right there. That's love.
We just got a Rainbow Drive-In, so that might
rainbows, Rainbow Royal. I'm gonna just throw it out there, dude. Rainbow Royal.
Yeah, I gotta try.
Best cheeseburger I've ever had in my life.
All right,
but that's love. That's love. Sharing the pork adobo omelet. That's something that'll get like a fork in my hand in my family. You know what I mean? All right. So there is a library with all of the books that Matt LoPresti has read in his life, right? And there's a tidal wave that's coming. You can save 3 books. What 3 books do you save from that tidal wave?
And I don't get a fiction choice and then 3.
You can get whatever. No, you can get whatever. Just 3. You got time to like grab 3 books real quick and run for the hills. So,
Library
so what?
Of Alexandria kind of thing, huh? It's gonna all be lost if I don't grab it. Oh gosh. If I could get, all right, I'll go nonfiction. I'll go fiction first. If I can get all of Tolkien's works, like a complete works of Tolkien.
Sure. We'll call that one.
And a complete works of Shakespeare.
All right.
I'll grab those 2 first, and then I got to go nonfiction. See, now I'm thinking like a policymaker. We need
no. I want to know. Matt LoPresti, the man. Yeah, you, not the policymaker, not the professor. You running into that library of all those books that you've read. Which one are you grabbing?
Shakespeare, Tolkien, and the complete works of Plato.
All right. Respect. Me and the old bard go way back, man. We like this.
Right on.
We go so back, I call him Bill, and he's been dead for centuries, and he's still taking me to school. All right. So
You got
So
some weird feedback, just so you know.
weird.
Okay.
Sorry about
Nope, it's better now.
that. Dead or alive, you could have a meal with anybody from history and anywhere, right? It can also be any fictional character, any entity, anyone, right? Dead or alive. And where would you eat? And, it can be any meal of the day. It can be breakfast, can be brunch, can be dinner, supper, 11sies, afternoon tea, whatever. Who would you have that meal with and where?
Well, now you got me thinking about libraries. So it would be at the Library of Alexandria in ancient Egypt. And I would have a nice lunch with Confucius.
Awesome.
There's a lot that I think I understand about classical Chinese philosophy, and there's a lot that I know I don't understand. And that's what Confucius Library of Alexandria lunch.
Nice. All right. Real talk now. There are wars that have been fought for less. Right? Manapua. Do you get it from Libby's, Requiescat in Pace, Char Hong Sut, or Chunwa Kam, or other?
Other. I can't remember the name. It's right on River. It's not quite River Street. It's in Chinatown, north of Beretania, this little place. And I get the vegetarian Manapua. I used to be a vegetarian. I'm not anymore. The sneaking pork will do that to you. But that's my go-to for that.
Gotcha.
This great little place along the river walk there, River Street, vegetarian Manapua.
Respect. There's I love my sister. She's a Libby's fan, and I can't, man. Char Hong Sut all day, son, all day. All right.
If she gets something else, maybe.
But Libby's unfortunately is no longer with us. I wish in my heart of hearts that place was still around, just so that my sister could enjoy her favorite. All right. What fictional place do you wish actually existed?
Well, I won't say some utopia because those are dystopian, but I'd say Middle Earth, definitely Middle Earth. Got to visit the elves and Lothlorien, and I'm a real big Tolkien nerd. I'd read Hobbit so many times in middle school, and the Lord of the Rings more times than I can count. So, but the only book I can never get through the Silmarillion. I don't know if you know that genre.
Yeah, I do. It's thick, dude.
I was
always sad that Tom Bombadil didn't, get a shout out at all in the films. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of a complicated backstory. I wish he'd written more
about that. So. How do you even involve that guy, right? Or there's so many different characters that didn't get the real shout out they deserved, but ultimately, I was such a nerded out fan of the movies when they first came out, just to see it. You know what I mean?
Come to life. I still got to get to New Zealand. I know they've taken a lot of it down, but
oh my God, no, it's great. Still, you should go out. Craters of the Moon, where what's it called? Craters of the Moon is a hike you can take. Anyway, you should check it out. That's one of the sets they used.
Right on.
Yeah, it's by Lake Taupo, I want to say. Shout out to all the NZ folk out there. Much love. Let's see. What else? Let's go with, all right, zombie apocalypse team, right? Zombie apocalypse is upon us. You can pick 3 people or entities from anywhere, fiction, nonfiction, don't matter, any point in history. Who would it be and why?
Okay, zombie apocalypse. The only zombie movie, so I keep it in my camera. The only zombie movie I've seen, willingly, I should say, was Train to Busan. I watched that.
Snap. That is heavy, dude.
It was amazing. It was great. It was outstanding filmmaking. And I think people in Hawaii would especially enjoy the ending. No spoilers, I guess.
No spoilers.
But zombie apocalypse, my team, All right, my team would be General George S. Patton,
All right.
Leonidas,
All right.
and either no, a U.S. Navy SEAL. I don't think you're going to get better warriors than that.
I
So you
mean,
got the strategist, you got the diehard foot soldier who knows how to hold a tight space, and somebody trained in modern tactics. That's my team.
all right. All right. Um, I work in film and TV. For me, it's hard to watch movies sometimes because I get caught up in the composition of it. But you know, it means that it's something special to me when I can be taken away on the journey and forget all the stuff that's going on with it. So what's your favorite movie? It can be like a movie that you've loved for all time. It can be a movie that you just found right now. What's your favorite movie and why?
My favorite movie is Hunt for Red October. I just love Sean Connery and like everything he's done. Um, I never served. I thought about serving. I ended up going to grad school instead. Um, but the submarines had always been fascinating to me. The tactics of them, and especially during the Cold War, and the importance of them in today's uh, strategic strategy. That's today's. So yeah, submarines are something that I've always loved since I was a little boy. So yeah.
Cool. Somebody once told me that, you know, we are a culmination of all the many choices we have made, you know, good or bad, right or wrong. We are where we are because of all of those choices that have led us to this point. So what are some of the defining moments for you that have led you to seek public office, to seek leadership in this way? Are there any defining moments that you could share with us that led you to this path?
That's deep.
Well, it's philosophy, right? So
Yeah.
like you're a philosophy guy, so
Yeah, but it's one thing to teach the content, thoughts of others. Well, I mean, I mentioned Red October, right? And one of the reasons that's one of my favorite movies, and it's not necessarily a good thing, is because I'm a child of the Cold War. I grew up in northern Cleveland, and I grew up in the shadow, like many people, everybody my age and older, and the shadow of nuclear holocaust, right? And this idea that this is how it's all going to end. So I remember very early on the movie. Gosh, what was it called? It was on TV. They did the day after. The day I don't know how old you are, but if you're, at least I'm 46. It was the day after, and it was about nuclear war, and that affected me at such a deep level. I must have been like 10 or 11, right? And it shocked me to the core, and it changed. It's funny to say something changed your life when you're that young, but it changed me deep inside to think that humanity, not that we would, maybe we will, hope to God we don't, but that we put ourselves in a position where we could do that to ourselves and do that to each other, and that nothing could justify that. And that there made me oriented to what's going on in the world. So, preteen, I'm watching the news and I'm learning about Soviets, and I'm learning about the military and these sorts of things, because I know it directly impacts me. Someday might harm my family, right? So that was one thing that helped direct me. And the other at that age was being in the Boy Scouts. My father, I was really lucky. He was my scoutmaster early on. And the thing that sticks with me to this day is the do a good turn daily. I used to carry a little coin in my pocket, and it was a VSA logo, and it says good deed on the other side. And I carried it around with me, even when I was a 17-year-old, when it's not cool to do it anymore, and I'm at high school. I carried that around in my pocket. And you take it from your left pocket to your right pocket when you've done your good deed for the day. So I just, as a matter of character development, to always be looking for an opportunity to help other people, right? not for any reward, not to tell anybody, not to go out and take a picture of myself doing something nice, but just because that's how human beings ought to be towards one another. And so those things define me deeply, being a child of the Cold War and being in Boy Scouts and having my father there as part of that for me, learning how to be a good citizen and how to help other people at all times. So.
Awesome. All right. So, you are running for office, right? And should you be elected, broad strokes now, broad strokes, should you be elected, what's your vision for that seat, for that office?
Well, there's a lot of unfinished work. So I was in there for 2 terms, and I had a long, medium, short-term plan for other schools that I wanted to work on. Short term was get the AC in the schools. We got that. We not only got AC for Everett Beach, we got $100 million for AC in schools statewide. Short term, mission accomplished. Medium term, we have the largest school in the state, massive overcrowding. They needed a brand new building. So we got I think it was $30 million multi-story building for 21st century science classrooms and Native Hawaiian education. We got that my last term in office for Campbell High School. That's being built right now. I think it goes into service next year. Long term, we need a new high school. We don't just need a new high school. We need to make sure that the developers out here build schools as they build homes and not do all this stuff backwards and just make the taxpayers do it. We need that. We need to build that into our community planning. So that's education. Traffic wise, that's the number one thing for people's daily life. This grind is exhausting and soul crushing, right? We need the rail. I know there's a lot of problems with it. We need the rail. We need good oversight of it. We need to finish it. And frankly, if you've traveled the world, you see how other metropolitan areas are developed. We can put good affordable housing along rail routes and expand and grow these rail routes, which will reduce carbon footprint, which will make the city more city to keep the country, all these sorts of things. On Fort Weaver Road, those of you who commute and traffic with me and my wife and my neighbors, that we could use a contraflow lane. They've tried this in Nanakuli. They've tried this in other places. We got them downtown. Eva has a wide enough road now in the main artery in Fort Weaver Road that we could put a contraflow lane there. If they want to try it PM first instead of AM, I think that's a good idea because there's a bottleneck at H1 anyways. But speaking of that bottleneck, when I was in office, we got $5 million to do new planning to put a brand new on-ramp or to revamp the on-ramp there at the Kunia on-ramp for where Kunia, Waipahu, and Eva Beach all come together, try to get on the same lanes of H1 at the same time. It becomes a parking lot. So we need to facilitate that, and I've helped get the money to do that. Some of these problems, when you get the money, it still takes years and years for the projects to come to fruition. So those are the 2 main things, education and traffic. But one of the things we should never forget about is our kupuna, right? The first bill that I signed in 2014, I waited. People at the beginning session, everybody's going around everybody with the bill idea, sign this, sign that. I waited, I read as much as I could, and I very carefully chose which bill I was going to sign first, and it was the CARE Act. And the CARE Act became law, and it enabled the government to help pay for home care workers to take care of the elderly, whether they're in a professional care home or at home in their own home so they can age in place, right? These are the kinds of programs we need to give the respect due to our kupuna so that they can age in place and still be a part of our community and not lock them away in some nursing home somewhere, right? But they can maintain a central component of our communities. So those are my 3 focus is traffic, kupuna, and our schools. And that's what I want to see happen for Everett Beach. To do that, we need somebody who understands the system, not going to have to learn on the job in the middle of a crisis. I think that's why a lot of people might have, or I was told by people who did come and ask me to run, as they wanted somebody with experience. I was able to deliver for my community, and they know I can deliver again. And so we need somebody who has a good relationship with everybody else who's there and knows how the system works. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. We are coming up on the end of our time. Where can folks go online to donate, to volunteer, to learn more about your campaign? How do people get involved?
Well, you can go to my website. It's matt4eva.com. That's Matt number 4EWA.com. And you can find more about me and our campaign. You can donate there too. If you're watching, please donate. Unfortunately, we need a lot of money to run for office. And that's one thing I also want to change is getting some public funding. But that's for another interview, another day. On my Facebook page, the politician page, you can also find my Instagram account, Matt4eva, at Matt4eva. I just started the new Instagram account today, so please check that out. And if you want to get involved, I need you. I always need good people who are passionate and care about these issues like I do to help do any number of things. You don't even have to be able to come to EVA to do it. But if you're interested, you can message me on my Facebook page, at my Instagram, or email me at matt_LoPresti@yahoo.com. That's my email, and you can email me anytime. So thank you.
Awesome. Anytime. Thank you for joining us. Do it for the gram. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all of you at home that are watching right now. It's been an honor and a pleasure getting to talk to you, Matt. Please stick around for a little debrief after this. And again, thank you for everybody that's watching. Stick around at 6:30. We got Jackie Astor joining us. Well, much love and take it easy from Emerging Leaders for a Better Hawaii.
Namaste.